Ryan here with RD's Total Lawn. All right, so we got RD's turf tips. So what are we talking about today? Today we're talking about what everybody wants, a green and a weed-free lawn. So how do we get there? So we're gonna nerd out a little bit, but I'm gonna keep it fairly top level for educational purposes so you guys can kind of tune in. So what we wanna talk about today is the Integrated Pest Management Pyramid. So essentially in layman's terms, what do I gotta do to get a green and weed-free, good-looking lawn? So it all comes down to integrated pest management. So when we talk about pests, we're actually talking about weeds, we could be talking about insects, anything that's in your lawn that's not desirable that you don't want there. Essentially, in the lawn care world, we're mostly talking about weeds, and we're looking at a healthy lawn. So there's a lot that goes into how do I get a green and weed-free lawn? And if somebody's trying to sell you that, overnight you can just have it by doing this one magical thing, you might want to look into it a little further. So what we have is the pyramid here. So this pyramid breaks down all the different aspects of what goes into having a healthy green and weed-free lawn. So you can see what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about what do each of these things mean and what practical things can I be doing in each of these categories to get the lawn that I want. And this is a DIY, you can hire a professional, many ways to go about it, but however you get it done, these are the key aspects of the pyramid that we want to get into place. So let's look into it. So starting at the bottom, obviously you can see it's a pyramid. So the biggest and most important thing is cultural, right? And you can see that chemical is really a small portion of the integrated pest management. A lot of times people think that the only way to get a green and weed-free lawn, all I have to do is put down some chemicals, some herbicides, something like that, and I'm gonna have a golf course looking lawn. That's not all. That is a piece of it, but there are other aspects with getting the lawn that you want. So starting at the bottom, so cultural, what is that exactly? That is where it all starts, right? That's the foundation of having a healthy lawn. So we're talking what type of grass type do we have? What does our lawn look like in terms of how much of it is grass, how much of it is weeds? What's the conditions of our soil, right? That's the foundation for having a healthy lawn. An example would be if you're in the Northeast and we're in Pennsylvania, if you have a lawn with a warm season type like a Bermuda or Zoysia, we're really a cool season type of environment. So bulk of the year, there's a big portion of the year where your lawn is going to be dormant. So most primarily in this area, we like to go with the cool season. We typically do our seeding with a tall fescue. It really plays well to our region where we're at. But anyway, ultimately, what is the culture? What is the conditions of the soil? What type of grass type do I have? The overall health of the lawn. So that's the most important. That's the foundation. Next would be mechanical. So what things physically, in the physical state of the soil, meaning like, is it compacted? Is the thatch layer very thick? And we'll talk about next, what can we do in those scenarios when we come across that, when we diagnose that. Next would be biological. So you have a whole ecosystem going on in your soil. There's insects, there's bugs, and not all bugs are bad. Not all living organisms in your soil are really bad. Some are beneficial, but you want to maintain the proper level. So do you have unwanted insects or bugs? Do you have too many of one kind? Do you maybe have grubs that you wouldn't want in your soil to eat away your turf roots? So that's biological when we're talking about that. And then last would be chemical. So what type of chemicals, herbicides, insecticides, fungicides, things like that are we putting into the lawn to try to prevent as well as post-treat weeds and pests and insects and things of that sort. So those are four different aspects of the pyramid. All of them are very important. But let's talk about, to kind of wrap it up, cultural, what exactly can we do in each of these categories to improve it? So from a cultural standpoint, some tactical things you can be doing is regular lawn mowing. We'll talk more about it in another turf tip, but the 1/3 rule is a key element when you're mowing the lawn. Having sharp blades and things of that sort, watering properly, having proper pH levels in your soil, all that is really key. And then having your yard filled in with healthy grass, right? The number one way to avoid having weeds creep into your lawn is to take up the real estate with grass. Healthy, strong grass that takes up your lawn, it's gonna push out the weeds. It's not gonna leave any real estate for weeds to creep in. When you have a really patchy lawn in spots and it's not filled in with a grass type like a fescue or something that we're talking about, you're really opening the door for pests, for weeds, to creep into those spots. So seeding is a key element, having a nice thick lawn to kind of weed out those things and keep the weeds at bay. Not that you'll have zero, but it will be the number one tactic to try to keep them away, right, in healthy soil. Next would be mechanical. So what type of mechanical things can we do? On an annual basis, we do recommend doing some type of an aeration, right? All year you kind of have your soil gets compacted, people playing on it, lawnmowers riding on it, weather elements hitting it, and it gets really compacted. So a key thing to do, we typically do in the fall, would be an aeration where we're pulling plugs. We like core aeration versus the tines. So to pull a nice plug, kind of open up your soil, let it breathe to relieve compaction. Another option you could also look at, some people will couple it with this, would be dethatching. I would say you don't typically in our region need that on an annual basis, but maybe every couple years, get somebody to come check it out. Once you see your thatch is starting to get considerable, and a little bit of thatch is good, but you don't want too much, that's when you might want to look into the mechanical process of actually dethatching the lawn, removing that excess thatch. Again, kind of the same concept, but really like to open up that soil and let it breathe. Biological, so that would be, putting down insecticides or just managing the amount of bugs or insects that are in your lawn. The most common in our area would be white grubs. So it's really knowing like their life cycle, when they're going to hatch and when they're going to start feeding. The problem with grubs is they're going to chew on your turf roots. A lot of times you'll see your grass will, almost pull back like a carpet. It's because those roots have been chewed out and there's really nothing sticking to the soil. At that point, the damage is typically done. We want to get the grubs removed, but at that point we're looking at a repair. But biological, that's where all those insecticide, or when insects and things of that sort come into play. And then lastly would be chemical. So you can do this yourself, right? You can go to a hardware store and pick up some type of fertilizer or herbicide or something of that sort. Or you can hire a professional. So typically you're putting down pre-emergence in the early spring, right? We want to get ahead of crabgrass and other weeds that start to creep in. The preventative tries to prevent them from coming up. And then we have post-treatment as well. So once they do come up, we want to try to spray them and spot treat them with selective herbicides that will kill the weed that we're looking to attack or the pest that we're looking to attack, and not your lawn. So that's more of a chemical approach. Again, you can do it yourself, you can hire a professional. But anyway, that's kind of the nuts and bolts. That's our integrated pest management pyramid here. As you can see, it's really a combined effort. So if you hire a company to do the service for you for lawn care, and they're doing the treatments and things of that sort, and maybe they're even doing your aeration in the fall or what have you, it is still a big responsibility for you to also mow your lawn properly, right? Don't wait weeks and weeks to mow it, and doing the other things that we need to be doing on a regular basis. When it gets into the summer, we want to make sure that we're watering it. All those are cultural aspects, which again, that's the foundation, that's the key with the pyramid, and so important. So for more turf tips, feel free to tune in. Thanks for your time today and for listening in. RD's Total Lawn. Thanks so much and have a great day.